What is the creepiest thing you've seen in the woods, in the mountains, or in remote areas? I was driving home after an extremely late night at work. I lived in the middle of nowhere, about a mile. Before I got there, a woman covered in blood jumped out of the woods into the middle of the road screaming. I panicked and went around her, then slammed on the brakes to help. Her boyfriend had beaten her and was currently chasing after her in the woods. I got her in my car and called the police. They met us at the hospital because I told them there was no way I was waiting on the side of the road when he was coming. Went on a mountain hike in Transylvania with a group of friends from school, and way up, after maybe 12 to 14 kilometers of trekking, we saw a house. Was in the middle of nowhere. It had a barn with a few animals, couple of cows, chicken, etc. As we get closer, we see a few people, a guy and 5 to 6 women. Not sure if there were more inside. The dude comes to greet us, barely speaking the language. We had a hard time understanding what he's saying. They lived without electricity, gas, anything. This is in the early 90s, so there's no internet, mobile phones to worry about, at least for most people. Anyway, they all looked weird, kinda dumb expressions on their face. We can barely understand each other. They asked us who's the president now, and if we want some milk. They look at our clothes and shoes weirdly, curious. Like who knows when is the last time they had human contact. Or maybe there were more crazes around those parts, dunno. Not sure to this day what was going on. It's not typical in the region, so we kinda freaked out, especially cause a dude looked a bit disturbed, and we were too young. We were looking around to see if there's more of them. Paranoia was getting to us, thinking there must be a village nearby. What was also weird is that all the women kept their distance and never got close to us. Like he was guarding them or checking us out if it's safe for them. One of my friends kept saying we don't want their milk and we need to go cause it's getting dark. We walked calmly for a while, then when we thought we were out of their sight, bolted like crazy out of there. Needless to say, we camped after a few hours, and we always had one person awake to keep watch. We told people that were living in the villages near that area about the mountain people, and they didn't believe us. They said nobody lives there, up in the mountains. Doing urban exploration in a dilapidated church at night. On one of the floors was this circular motif in the floor, where I guess a podium or something was. There was fresh blood on it, as if something was killed there. When we went in the basement later on, we heard someone running upstairs. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. If it's in my tower PC, I probably won't be able to for a while though, since it's fried. When I was really young, we were on a family trip and me and my older brother took a ride on a boat. I remember my mom telling us to avoid the big floating thing. She thought it was a buoy to signalize a dangerous rock underwater or something. Being kids, of course we went straight there to explore it. So turns out it was not a buoy. That was a body of a tourist that went missing a week ago, as the police informed us a few days later. Creepy thing is he was one of a group of people that had disappeared together. I believe they never find the rest. So, not a good childhood memory. Not sure if this is the kind of story you're looking for, but it's a fun one to tell, so here you go. I used to work in low-income home weatherization, basically giving free shit away to help lower electricity and gas bills and make the home more comfortable to people who really needed it, installing doors and insulation and so forth. One step in qualifying a home is testing combustion appliances to make sure they're not emitting carbon monoxide into the living space, because if they are, and we seal up the house, we could kill the whole family. During a pre-inspection of a home on the outskirts of the city, I asked to see the owner's water heater. He tells me that it's in the basement, which is fairly normal, and I tell him I have to inspect it before work can start. So, he goes into the kitchen and starts moving the refrigerator. Turns out the entry into the basement is underneath carpeting beneath the fridge. I should note that I went and did thousands of homes over the years and had never seen such a thing. But, whatever, needs to be done regardless, and so I pull out my flashlight and shine it down the stairs to check out the layout, but really to look for black widow spiders, because fuck black widows. At this point I notice a dead cat, mostly down to a skeleton. Not my favorite sight, but really common in crawl spaces and basements. I take a few steps down the stairs and continue my spider check and notice another couple of small animal skeletons. At this point I start to worry about gas or poisons or something equally dangerous and start looking closer. There are animal skeletons everywhere, at least 10 on a cursory look. Some of them are so degraded I can't determine what they used to be. I also happen to notice that this guy is waiting at the entrance a little too quietly with his hand on the door. Something clicks in my brain and I get this immense sense of danger. I'm about 4 steps from the door, being clear to close. I have no partner on the job with me. There's death all around me, and I realize just how hidden the entrance to the basement really was. I noped the fuck out, told the guy I needed extra tools and would be back, and marked the job as non-feasible for health and safety as I was driving away. I have no idea if I was actually in any danger. It could have been completely innocent, but I still remember the adrenaline rush and sense of doom, and sometimes you just don't take chances. I was driving through rural parts of Missouri with a buddy. We drove down a single lane road that had no exit. At the end of the road, there was a group of deer corpses laid in a perfect circle. I'd say there was at least 10 deer. We BTFO real quick. Found a deer with its hind end ate up. Few feet away was a coyote with the hind end ate up. Then another few feet away a fox with its hind end ate up. Nothing else was there. No bullet holes or signs of a arrow or anything else. Couldn't find any tracks from other people or animal. It was pretty creepy. Found in the hills of WV. I'd been at football training with a few of my cousins when I was about 10 years old. We decided to take a walk before our parents picked us up. So we went along the canal towpath. My cousin looked down in the canal and saw a really nice jacket floating along, and being a weird scavenger person decided to reach in to fish it out. Well, the jacket turned over, and so did the man wearing it. He also had no face left. Not gonna lie, that was rough. Me and a friend decided to take our 4x4S and go camping in the mountains. I wake up middle of the night because I need to take a piss. So I put on my headlamp and I walk a bit further from camp, and as I'm doing my business, I hear rocks ruffle behind me as if they are being walked on. Anxiety rises. I finish up and turn around, and as my headlamp faintly lights up the area around me, all I see eyes, about 20 of them, and just staring at me. My breathing stops, and I literally freeze where I'm standing. And then I hear a Maya, goat blessed. It was a fucking herd of mountain goats that were intrigued by the ape in their backyard. Almost gave me an aneurysm. This is probably less scary than a lot of the other posts, but I was pretty sure I was going to be the nameless victim at the start of a horror movie to show how dangerous the monster is. Basically, my dad and I were walking through the woods when we came across a young moose leg lying on the ground. It looked like it had been violently torn off with no sign of the rest of the moose anywhere. It was fresh with blood still on the wound, probably no more than a couple hours old. My dad is a pretty skilled hunter, so he handed me his axe that he was carrying and told me to watch for wolves while he started looking for tracks. After a little bit he came back saying, "That's weird. Normally if it was wolves you'd be able to find paw prints, but I can't see any. Also no bear prints. So I have no idea what killed this." And so I'm like, "You didn't find any tracks at all?" And his very reassuring response was, "Well, I did find what appears to be the mama moose tracks headed this way, showing me the tracks. You can see how her stride is a lot longer here. Whatever killed her baby, she didn't want to fight it. She just took off running." He then pulls out his bear spray and holds it at the ready as we kept walking deeper into the woods with the unnamed non-track leaving predator armed with bear spray and an axe. I work as an autopsy technician. It's pretty regular happening and doesn't faze me now, but the first time I heard a remains exhale/moan was pretty creepy. There's a section of Joshua Tree National Park called Samuelson's Rocks, where an old Swedish prospector who lost his mind used to live. He carved all sorts of crazy sayings into the rocks. During the day they look pretty neat. At night in a lightning storm they look like something of Lovecraft. I'm a night owl, so used to stay up late at the computer lab on my university campus. It was open until 2 AM. I was walking home and there were about 4 to 6 people covered in burlap robes and giant hoods, sitting cross-legged on the quad. The next morning, those fuckers were still there. It was a chicken wire and burlap fucking art piece. I was mountain biking in the woods, and I came across an East Asian looking man in a perfectly fitted suit and a briefcase, just casually walking through the woods. When I was about 7 or 8, my parents sent me to a local summer camp that they would pick me up from in the afternoons. I never really liked it because the kids were mean, everything was either broken or not clean, and the counselors obviously didn't care. I remember the girls' changing room had a door that lead out to the woods, but the door knob was gone, so it was unlocked all the time and you could see into it. This was primarily where the girls changed into their bathing suits, and there was usually someone blocking the view while we changed, so the boys couldn't look in. Well, one day I'm changing alone and someone wasn't blocking the door. I look over and see an eye peeping in through the hole watching me change. I pull the rest of my clothes back on quickly and run out to tell my twin brother. I tell my dad that I don't want to go back to that camp anymore, and he begrudgingly takes us out of the camp pretty soon after because he knew how much we hated it. Years later, the camp has been closed down for many years, and I'm asking my dad about it. He gets really grim and tells me it shut down because a 13-year-old boy had raped 7-year-old girl in the woods right behind the girls' bathroom a few weeks after I had told him about someone watching me change. Cowlitz River, Washington State. Camping with my dad and sister, me buddies, early 90s. Something was throwing rocks and sticks into our camp. We shined a flashlight out and caught a reflection of eyes and a silhouette. Very tall. Kept throwing stuff in our camp randomly for about 15 minutes. We just stoked the fire really high. In the morning I woke up to heavy footsteps in our camp and something reeked. Woke up my dad. He shook the tent and yelled. Whatever it was ran off. My girlfriend and I were hiking along some abandoned railroad tracks and we get to a small bridge going over a little creek. I'm about to go explore under the bridge when she points something out. I look over, and in the woods across from us, I see a guy. Him like whatever, and keep headed down to the creek area, and then the guy stands up and he's naked. We immediately backtrack pretty quickly to get away from there, and once we're like 1 minute down the trail I look back, and this naked dude is just standing in the middle of the trail watching us walk away. I was a cook on board several NOAA research ships. Up in the Bering Sea, I saw what appeared to be a massive, black, triangular-shaped craft dive under the water. I viewed it from a distance of maybe 2 nautical miles. I was on a camping trip with some friends of mine, and we found like 7 or 8 chipmunks and squirrels all in a pile, but they were all dead without arms or legs. In a patch of trees off of a field near where I keep my horse, there's one of those big oil drums sealed up with a very heavy boulder on top. The only way it could have got there is being placed by a tractor or some sort of heavy lifting equipment. My partner and I tried to push it off, but no luck. I don't know why, but it creeps me out every time I see it. I regularly walk my dogs past it to see if they show any interest, but honestly after watching them look for a toy that was clearly in my lap, I'm not sure I have much faith in them anymore. So when I was 15, my friends and I liked to climb abandoned buildings. We found one down by the river. About 3 stories high and in pretty bad condition. I remember there were no stairs initially and we had to pull ourselves up. We climbed to the top via broken stairs after that. At the top was a small open room where someone was living. We walked in to look around and immediately noticed the walls were covered in pictures. Pictures of women tied up, naked, obviously in pain in all sorts of positions. Some appeared dead, but they were from magazines. We never got out of a building and away from an area so fast. Looking back, it was probably just serious BDSM porn, but 15-year-old me dipped out. Walking on the beach with my boyfriend, and we had walked to a giant rocky cliff to Makiat. Somebody was just gazing at the ocean, crying and shaking. Mind you, this is late at night, like around 9:30 PM. We asked him if he was okay, He apologized and practically ran back down the cliff, away from the dangerous areas. My boyfriend and I watched him until he reached the public area and decided to call it a night. I'm pretty sure he was going to jump. I was walking with family when I was little and we came across a sheep's head. No body or blood, just a severed sheep's head on the path. It was the first time I noticed sheep's eyes have slit pupils, and I think my first contact with something so gruesome. My friend and I were chilling in the woods one day back in high school and see a dog walking by, later followed by this kid. He looked troubled, so we asked if he needed help. He obliged, telling us he was dog sitting for his friend and the dog got loose. So we spent a good hour following this dog and kid around, going deeper and deeper into the woods. Eventually I finally got the dog to come to me, but it wasn't wearing a collar, so I wasn't able to get a hold. My friend and I look away for just few seconds to discuss strategy, and when we turn back around, the boy and the dog are both gone. It was like they completely vanished. Keep in mind it was autumn, so any footsteps could be heard from quite afar. But it was just silent, not a single trace of them anywhere. Still don't really know what happened. Maybe they ran away real quick. Who knows? Was definitely enough to creep us out though. Don't forget to consider the idea to maybe think about potentially subscribing. Peace.